Hi, this is Brett. Um, Today's the 9th day of November. And anyway, I was having my morning coffee and it came across the television. It was the 9th. And the 9th of November is probably, for most people, it's just another day. But for me, it's a very memorable day because back in 2018, on the 9th of November, on a Friday, was a regular work day for me, and I share rides with a buddy of mine from Cesar, and we would ride together and park in the south parking lot of the plant. And then we had a friend that worked in our department area, and he was a contractor, and he was able to get a pass to be able to drive his car around the backside of the plant and park. And so he was kind enough to share a ride with us, and that would save us about a mile walk every day in and out from the regular parking lot out front. So on this day, I believe it was the contractor's first day back because he had been sick real bad. He had COPD and had gotten a terrible cold and coughing and just have a hard time breathing. And anyway, finally, I think he missed all week except Friday. He came in and picked us up. So anyway, so we're at work. I'm kind of excited. It's Friday. I'm gonna get off work and start the weekend. So we finish our shift and we all walk out, the three of us, and we all go out to the car around the backside of the plant, and we get in, and my buddy gets in the back seat that I share a ride with, and I sit in the front seat with the contractor who's had COPD. So we never buckled up seatbelt wise because the speed limit around the back of the plant was only 15 mile an hour, so there was no need, for buckling up and you know fear of anything happening that would hurt you. So and normally it took about 4 minutes maybe to drive all the way around the plant. And so we get to the guard shack, and every morning when we came in, he had to have a pass from the guards at the guard shack. And so he knew all of them very well. And they we kind of visited for a second, got the pass from them, put it in the window, and then drove around. Well, we get to the guard shack, so where we have to stop and hand the pass back to the guard. So he's talking to this woman that normally works midnight shift, so we would see her every morning. Well, on this morning, she was working as usual, and so we talked to her. Well, anyway, now when we pull up to the guard shack to leave at 3:30, here is this lady again. So he rolls the window down and he says, "What in the world are you doing here?" Because she was just waited on us 8 hours earlier, or 8.5. And she said, "Well, I had to come back in because somebody was on vacation. We didn't have anybody else to cover this, so I had to go home, get a nap, and come back." Well, being an ex-military man that he was, I guess maybe he had a he had a saying, and then he says to her, he says, "Boy," he says, "that sucks monkey balls." And I thought, wow. And she kind of giggled, and so he rolls his window up, and he was a single. The guy was single, and I said to him as we're starting to pull away from the guard shack to head to this parking lot, which is about 65, 70 feet that we have to turn left into, and our cars are right there. I mean, just as soon as you turn in, you'd make a little bit of a right, and we're right there. So we're pulling away from the guard shack, and I can't believe he kind of said that to her. And I said, "Boy, you really have a way with women. And that struck him funny, and he started laughing. I mean, laughing. Well, he is laughing so hard now that he's beginning to start coughing. And the coughing is not your normal cough. I mean, it's pretty violent. So he gets to the part where he's got to turn left to get to our parking lot, with our cars are about 15 feet away at that point. Well, he's coughing violently. And okay, so I think he's going to quit any second, maybe. Well, at this point, he needs to be turning right and going over to our car. But he doesn't turn right. The car is going straight. And I look at him, and his face is just completely beet red. I mean, he's coughing so violently, and his body's getting rigid. He's coughing so hard. He's just, his body's rigid. He's got his head back. And about that time, I didn't, when certain things happen, it takes a second or two for you to really grasp the situation and realize what's going on. But he passed out at the wheel of the car. And when he passed out, his body being so rigid from coughing so hard, he had his foot pressed down on the gas all the way to the floor. And at this point, your mind, like I say, your mind can't wrap things around it that fast, and the car is taking off like a rocket through our parking lot. Well, my buddy in the back seat starts screaming at him, trying to wake him up, because he realizes that in about 2 or 3 seconds before we could even react to this, we're running about 40 miles an hour and gaining speed at a tremendous rate. And I finally, after about 2 seconds, realized that, hey, I've got to get his foot off the accelerator. So, because I mean, I can't control the car. And so I reach over and bend down, and I take my hand and shove his leg to knock it off the accelerator. But he is so rigid from coughing and passed out coughing. His body just I'm serious. It was just like, it was incredible. And I hit his leg and it wouldn't come off. Well, by then we're up in the vicinity of 45 or 50 mile an hour. And I have no earthly idea. I'm kind of down below the dash where I can't see. My buddy is screaming at the top of his lungs, trying to wake him up. And about that time, we leave the parking lot. We don't run over anybody, thank God. We didn't hit anybody. And we stayed a straight line out of the parking lot. And I had no idea and that this was coming, but I'm still trying to knock his leg and his foot off this accelerator. We leave the parking lot and there's a ditch. And we go through this ditch at about 50 mile an hour. And when we hit this ditch, I mean, it was violent. It was violent. We all went flying up in the air, except for him, the driver, who's got a death grip on the wheel and his foot on the accelerator still at this time. And we went through this ditch. I was just in midair. I hit my head on the ceiling, and my buddy was flying around the back seat and busted the front windshield out immediately. So the windshield's busted out now. And we are still going. We are still increasing speed at a rapid pace. And at that point, I was up above where I could see, and I could see that there's an exterior fence that runs around the property of the plant. And it's roughly 150 yards from where we are, where we went through this ditch. So at that point, we're gaining speed heading for this fence. And so it takes me a second to regroup from flying all over the car. And I leaned back down and just hitting his leg, trying to get because I know I've only got a matter of seconds. And my friend in the back seat is still trying to wake him up. And my friend says this is what he remembers. The last time he saw the speedometer, it read 65 mile an hour, at which point he knew we were going to wreck in about 3 seconds. So I have no idea, you know. I just tried, my main object was to try to get his foot off the accelerator so we could slow down. Uh, and at that point, we impacted a pole that was obviously sunken 8 feet of cement. And when we hit that pole doing about 70 mile an hour, we slid underneath the wire fence and went out into the field, knocked us out. Everybody knocked out. And when I wake up, uh, I raise my head up, and the car is filled with just looked like talcum powder from all the airbags. And it's like you can't even get a grasp on what the hell just happened. So I raise up, and now the impact has woke him up, the driver. And he says to me, he looks at me, and he says, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, we've had a major wreck." And OnStar, he had an OnStar he had a General Motors vehicle. It comes on, the voice is saying, "We have detected a major impact. Are you okay?" And we said, "Is everybody okay?" And everybody replies, "Yeah, I think I'm okay." And I said, "We're okay." He said, "Well, we put out an emergency for assistance for you, and there'll be some police and showing up there." So I said, we better get out of this car. So we get out of the car, and we're standing. I turn around and look. We're standing in the middle of this field, bean field, and I look back, and the fence is probably, I don't know, 75 feet or 100 feet behind us. And what happened is when we hit the pole struck on my side of the vehicle. It's where it impacted the front right-hand side of the vehicle. And at that point, it slid underneath the fence, and the fence went up. And then when we went through it so fast, the fence came back down like you had never went through the fence. And I thought that was so strange, but I seen the pole, and the pole was damaged terrible, man. But the fence was still up and intact. And from a distance, you might not be able to tell that anything had ever happened. So we're standing in the middle of this field. And then I realized that my left wrist is killing me. And it's hurting, and my thumb is hurting. And, so the driver, "Everybody all right? You guys okay?" He says, I can't believe what happened." I said, "Well, you slept through the whole thing, you missed it." But my buddy in the back seat, he didn't miss it, and neither did I. So I will tell you about it. So I said, "But I think I'm going to have to go to the emergency room because my wrist is killing me and my thumb's killing me." And I knew that the emergency people were coming. So we're standing out in the middle of this field. And anyway, it's cold. It's November. It's about 3:35 in the afternoon, and there is no sun. The wind's blowing, and we're just all in kind of a shock. You know what I mean? We can't believe what's happened. So the buddy that was driving had told me about 3 weeks ago earlier that he was going to bring a movie for me to watch. An old movie, one of his favorite movies. And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to see that." It was Katharine Hepburn and somebody else. So anyway, I'd completely forgotten that he was going to do that. It had been 3 weeks or better. So we're out standing in the field, and he says, "I'd better get my insurance cards out." And he gets in the glove box, and I'm standing there talking to my other friend, and I feel him tap me on the shoulder, and I turn and look to him, and he says, "Hey," he says, "here's that DVD I wanted you to see that movie." I said, "Oh, okay." It's like, just so bizarre, man. We just come within inches of, killing ourselves. And he just happened to remember that, he had this movie in there. He was going to give it to me. So at that point, I realized he was, back in his own skin and was rational. So here's over on the main road. I see all these emergency lights coming, and here they come. They walk out in the field to us, and we explained that he's going to have to go to the emergency room to be checked out. My buddy in the back seat says he's perfectly fine. He kind of got down below the seat line and was wedged down in the floorboard. And so at that point, I said, yeah, I'm going to have to go to the emergency room also. And they said, well, you want to ride in the ambulance? And I said, nah. I said, I'll just have my buddy here take me. And we're going to go back and get in his car. We got to walk back to get to it. And so I guess I was in some state of shock, you know what I mean, from the whole ordeal still. Didn't even realize. So I called my wife on the phone. I said, hey, I'm going to be a little bit late today getting home. She said, oh, you got to stay over and work longer or something? I said, no. We've had a wreck in the parking lot. She flipped out. Well, you've had a wreck. Are you hurt? Well, I don't. My wrist is killing me, and I'm going to the emergency room. I said, but I'm all right. That's all I've got wrong with me. And so at that point, my buddy drove me to the emergency room, and I had a broken wrist and a broken thumb. And that's so basically how freaky stuff happens to you when you don't least expect it. I mean, it's the farthest thing from your imagination that you can get hurt, So, anyway, that's another one of my stories. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.